Welcome back to Effective Educator. This is our fifth entry in this series looking at how to plan and organize your life, with a focus on what it looks like as a teacher. Take a look at the previous videos in the playlist here if you haven't seen them already. If you're ready, let's talk about how to plan your month. When it comes to the hotspots, annual and semester levels, we didn't really think about the laundry list of all the things we need to do. So for the year, we selected 3 outcomes that if we made them happen, we would declare the year a success. For the semester, we selected 3 outcomes that if we made them happen, we would declare the semester a success. Now, for the month, we will also select 3 outcomes that if we make them happen, we will declare the month a success. But at this point, we're also going to start thinking about all the other things which aren't important enough to declare victory when we finish them, but we do need to do. For the last week and a half, we've been starting school, and I've been dealing with a lot of things that were not on my list of top 3 things must be done this week. But if I don't create my Google Classrooms, I can't start semester, right? Now, part of the reason I'm presenting this is that the system I'm using for this is not just a single source. So up to this point, we've worked almost exclusively from the book Agile Results by J.D. Meyer. In Agile Results, he has some sense of a backlog, and we're going to talk about what that is, but he doesn't think about it as completely as GTD does. At this point, we're going to start to actually add in a different perspective, which is David Allen's Getting Things Done, or GTD. So the inspiration we're drawing here from GTD is the idea of the mind sweep and the idea of next actions. The mind sweep is a line-by-line review of a comprehensive list of categories in your life which could potentially be hiding to-do items. You'll find a link to an example in the description. Now, unlike in GTD, where we go through an entire process around categorizing these to-dos as something we can do now or something we can delegate or something we can delay, and then asking about whether or not this is a project or whether it's just a single next action, we are only going to ask 2 questions about every single one of these items. We're going to ask, is this work or personal? And am I doing this now or later? Everything that is work that we're doing now is going to go on our work projects list. This is the list of active projects which we are likely to work on this month that aren't annual or semester goals. Note that qualifier. It's August. I have not put end of semester comments on that list because I'm not going to work on that this month. I did put Launch CS Honor Society on that list because our first leadership team meeting and whole society meetings will happen this month. I put college reference letters on that list because I have some data gathering I need to do before I can write those reference letters, and so I will do that this month so I can write them next month. Everything that is work that we aren't going to do now goes on the work backlog list. This is the list of things we could do for work, but not now. End of semester comments seems like it should fit here. You could put this here if you wanted. I wouldn't put it here in August, but maybe in like November. You will be reminded in the month that you need to do end of semester comments that you need to do end of semester comments. Your principal will always send you an email. Your backlog is for things that you aren't doing right now and you're likely to forget that you wanted to do. It's also so that you can pull items off of this list at any time and make them active projects. So in other words, an item on a backlog should be something that tomorrow I could say, you know what, I've finished all of my work projects. Let me go see my backlog and see what I want to work on there. They should also be things that if they don't get done, it's okay. PD opportunities, classroom improvement projects, these are prime examples of things that start out on a backlog. Similarly, everything that isn't work is personal, and here we have the same 2 lists, personal projects and personal backlog. Personal projects might be things like organizing a room, renewing your car registration, revamping your resume. Maybe you've just moved to a new place and there's some shopping you need to do to fill out your house. And personal backlog might include things like job hunting if you're doing that this year, or a dream vacation, or buying a house. The same division applies. Projects for things you plan to work on, even if you're not going to finish them, in the next month or so. Everything else goes in the backlog. If you already have a projects list and a backlog list, maybe this is your 2nd month doing this, look them over. Did you forget to check any of those off when you finished them? Did anything rot while it was sitting on the list and now it's time to throw it away? You need to remove those, and you can do this with a clear conscience. You had the chance to do these. If you're doing the weekly reviews that we're going to cover in a future video, then you've looked them over several times since you've added them. You made the decision that these tasks weren't important enough to spend your valuable time on. So celebrate the fact that you only wasted a couple of minutes of your time during your mind sweep and your reviews instead of letting them idle in the back of your brain, slowing you down and preventing you from doing your best work. Connected to not wasting time, items that you should decide should be on your backlog should get the bare minimum of detail. These are dehydrated projects, dried out and shrunk down to the smallest, lightest load on your system that is possible. For a PD opportunity, I'd probably just have like hashtag PD conference name and then the link and the date, nothing more. The minimum possible amount of detail needed to reconstitute the idea when you finally decide to do it. Basically, you want just enough detail that future you can tell what present you was talking about and figure out what needs to be done to start the project. Active projects, as they appear on the projects lists anyway, should also be short, but they should have enough detail that reading them should be sufficient to tell you whether or not you have succeeded. I like to make projects imperative sentences, but that's personal preference. So launch CS Honor Society, it's clear to me what that means. That's on the list. That's all it says. And I know what that means. I can read that sentence and immediately know whether I have succeeded at that project or not. Another project I have is Rollout Points Tracker app. It's an app I've been asked to build for our MS and ES to work on. It's a fun technical challenge that builds on some things that are already on my resume. Decided to take it on. That's an active project in my system as well. In both cases, future me will know what launched and rolled out looks like for these two things. So I can make a decision in a matter of moments about what I need to do today or this week to push towards that objective. And I can make a decision in instantly about whether or not I'm finished with those projects. Writing clear project descriptions is a skill. It takes time to develop this. But as teachers, we have a head start on this. It's a skill we already practice with our students. When you're writing your homework assignments or projects assignments for your students, you write it in such a way that it is obvious to the student what done looks like. I suspect every one of your projects can be boiled down to a short, imperative sentence. Create a poster explaining the causes of the French Revolution. No student is going to get to the end of that project and go, but how do I know if I made a poster? Okay, some students might do that, but you aren't one of those students. You read the directions that you write for yourself. So write good directions for yourself. Now that you've made your project list, take a look at that project list again, for work and personal. For this month, you're going to categorize them as must, should, and could. A must project is a project that just absolutely must be done this month, no questions asked. A should project is a project that you really want to finish this month, but that project doesn't fail if you don't get it done this month. A could project is something that you definitely could move forward, but nothing bad is going to happen if you don't get around to it. Here's a work example. In January 2023, I'm looking over my backlog and I see under personal file U.S. taxes. I'll get the numbers for my local taxes, which is going to include my total taxable income, at the very end of this month because of the tax filing cycle in this country. So I won't have time to file my taxes. Therefore, it remains on my backlog. Now it's February. I just got the tax documents that I need, so I can move forward on U.S. taxes. I'd like to finish them early because it's one less thing that I need to think about, but there's no consequence to putting them off at this point. So I move file U.S. taxes to a personal project, but I'm going to categorize it as could. I'll put hashtag could next to it in my system because I could work on it, but nothing bad happens if I don't. In March, I'm going to look at it again. I really don't like waiting until the last minute, so I want to do them in the month of March. But March is a very busy month for us. I can't guarantee that it'll win out over PTCs and other projects which have hard deadlines during the month of March. So I bump it up to should. As expected, March is crazy. I didn't get to my taxes. Now it's April. And the filing deadline, as all you U.S. citizens know, is April 15th. File U.S. taxes is now a must project for this month. Now, obviously, this is a really simplistic example, and very few projects are going to have that lovely little backlog could, should, must progression that my tax example had. Most of my projects bounce from backlog to could. Sometimes they get as high as should, or they start out at should and they stay there until I'm finished, or until I approach the deadline and they become musts. Your workflow may vary, but the goal is to limit the number of musts on your list. Now you may be thinking, but every project I have at work is a must, and I don't doubt They are all very important projects, but they can't all be musts this month. If everything is a priority, then nothing is. This may require tough conversations with your administration about what priorities are actual priorities. But one thing I encourage you with is this. By the third month or so of trying this, you'll start to find that you have a lot fewer musts because you're catching and clearing projects earlier and earlier before they become musts. You're completing a lot of shoulds before they become musts. Back to that military analogy that I used in the hotspots video. If you find yourself mowing down the 5-meter targets, everything you have to do is a must. Using a system like this, you can start knocking down the targets farther and farther back because you learn to recognize them farther and farther out. It does sometimes take a bit of time, a couple of months, but it is very beneficial once you get there. Now that you've got your projects list and you've got your priorities, the final question is, which of these 3 projects are your 3 wins for the month? Remember, we're selecting the 3 things which allow us to declare victory this month. So generally, these are going to be your most important projects, which means they're going to be musts. Make sure as you select these that you also think about your semesterly and annual goals. Maybe you must work towards one of those this month. The 3 goals I selected for the month of August were create and complete a sprint for APCSA Flipped Classroom, sprint being a programming term that I'll be visiting in a future series on project, practice Korean for 30 minutes twice a week, and complete the front-end development for the Points Tracker app, which basically means designing the interface that teachers are going to see, but none of the logic that would make the app work. I have several additional musts on there, which are connected to the semester start, but all of them were either so short that I decided they could just be weekly goals, or they were not as important, and so they're musts, but if I don't get them done, I can still declare the month of victory. A should on my list is research single sign-on in Common Lisp. That's connected to the Points Tracker app that I'm working on next month. The part of it I will do next month. A could on my list is set up Google Calendar and LogSeq integration, which is something I'd like to do eventually to automate some of my weekly workflow, but it isn't urgent enough because the manual entry process isn't really that painful right now. But finally, you're going to want to review your dates again in your calendar, make sure there are no surprises. Now, this video was a little longer than the last one, but that does bring us to the end of our planning for a month. Come back next week when we'll talk about what the system looks like from years down to month with a worked example. Until then, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you found this video helpful. Bye.